If you're looking for a heartwarming rom-com brimming with a diverse cast amidst the gorgeously picturesque Australian backdrop, Top End Wedding is the best pick for your movie weekend. Offering a perfect blend of inclusivity, this movie goes off to the top end of Australia to explore a tale of love, familial ties, and the vibrance of Aboriginal culture. The story features a young couple, Lauren and Ned, who have been living together for a while, and have now decided to get married right away. Thus, Lauren takes 10 days off of her work to arrange it all, but things take an unexpected turn when Lauren's mother disappears all of a sudden. With Lauren's wish to get her family together, Ned must help in the wild goose chase, or else they can't get married. But the question is, will they be able to pull it off within 10 days? The movie starts with an officiant announcing a wedding ceremony in perfect harmony, but then a young girl, Daphne, is seen hastening away in her wedding gown, escaping a forced marriage. Her family tries reaching out to her, keeping her from running away as they scuttle across the island to find her boarding a ferry. But Daphne fixes her dress and gets the ferry going while all her friends and family cry out to her. She simply refuses to even give a farewell glance. And back at the island, when Daphne's mother finds her tiara on the ground, she realizes that her daughter is gone for good. With Daphne's escapade successfully, a Tiwi song plays in the background, ironically highlighting the fact that her mother wants her to be a goody-goody girl. The same tune plays as a ringtone on Lauren's phone, who, while stressing over a meeting, declines the phone call from Mom. Lauren finds herself in a frenzy which is quickly interrupted by her boss, Ms. Hampton. Upon seeing her, she freaks out and ends up breaking her stiletto's heel. But Ms. Hampton, being the serious boss that she is, lectures her to keep her act together if she wants to get promoted. So Lauren has no choice but to act calm and not let her heel get in the way. Meanwhile, Ned, a young lawyer like Lauren, receives his next prosecution case, which happens to be an old lady. The police officer who brought the case to him tells him the woman stole something, to which Ned suggests that she must be stealing incontinence pads, and that's exactly the case. While Ned reasons with the policeman to let the matter go, he simply tells him to take it to court. Whilst in the courtroom, the accused old lady, Ms. Ruthers, starts crying, and Ned can't help but feel sorry for her. As such, he dismisses the case, even though he technically can't since he's only a lawyer. Ned's employer is upset with him and tells him to take his job seriously. On the other hand, Lauren successfully sees off her clients, and her efforts finally get acknowledged as Ms. Hampton declares her as an associate lawyer. Excited, she reaches her shared home to find Ned ready to give her some news, but he lets her spill the tea first. Lauren then tells him first how she met some French businessmen. But right then, she is cut mid-sentence as Ned pulls out a ring and kneels in front of her. Overwhelmed, Lauren instantly nods and jumps to embrace him. Later, she also tells him that she has been promoted to associate lawyer, and Ned points out how much of a strict boss she has but insists he likes powerful women. And finally, Ned drops a bombshell on her by expressing how he wants to get married right away with no year-long engagement plan as she had expected. Lauren protests how he's so not romantic with his dislike towards such ceremonies. But their discussion is abruptly interrupted by a phone call from Ms. Hampton about a night shift. And Lauren agrees, leaving a scoffing Ned, who announces that he's left his job. But Lauren fails to hear him. At the office, Lauren struggles to concentrate as her ring keeps distracting her. She receives another call from her mom, which she dismisses yet again. Ms. Hampton notices her unfocused state and asks if she's keeping her, to which Lauren emphasizes it's 4 a.m., which is why she looks tired and distraught. But when Ms. Hampton insists, Lauren blurts out that she just got engaged to Ned, and she's concerned as to why he wants to get married so soon. Ms. Hampton reasons that he must be insecure enough to get married before Lauren gets promoted, hinting that he must be jealous of her success and wants to put a block in it. She gets Lauren on an air bike to help let her stress out and even suggests that she might let Lauren leave for the wedding because some of her clients want a married lawyer. Ms. Hampton herself was single, and so she too could benefit from Lauren's wedding. Thus, she gave her a 10-day leave without salary to get done with her marriage. The next morning, Lauren tells Ned they have 10 days to get married, and Ned is surprised because he meant the next few months, not days. But this time, Lauren is the one insisting. So, they leave for Darwin, Lauren's hometown, because she has always imagined getting married back home. Ned is confused at first, but Lauren reassures him that she feels like she'll regret not having her friends and family around at this special occasion, plus their parents would get to meet too. They then leave for Darwin along with Ned's mother, who can't seem to wrap her head around the need for urgency. She thinks that Lauren must be pregnant, and although they try to convince her, both Ned's mother and his brother Robbie seem suspicious. After arriving at Darwin, Lauren gives some pointers to Ned on how her mom likes to keep everything neat and tidy, and her dad likes men dressing up as boys, and thus she expects him to behave accordingly. While exiting the airport, Lauren finds her dad clad in pajamas, standing near his car, which is nothing but a mess. Lauren's dad looks quite irritated upon meeting Ned, and even during the drive, he swears a lot, which kind of gives Lauren the feeling that something's wrong. And when they finally get home, Lauren is surprised to see the entire place upside down and instantly knows her mom isn't home. Upon asking her dad, she gets a strange response as he simply walks to the cupboard and locks himself in. He then puts on a melancholic music record and starts sobbing. Later, they find out that her mom is gone and that she only left a note. Lauren reads the note where her mom clarifies that she's done with her dad. Lauren's dad gets emotional again and locks himself in the cupboard listening to the same sad song as Ned sings along while comforting Lauren. Later, though, as Lauren gets ready for a night out with her friends, Ned insists she takes him with her as he doesn't want to stay with her creepy dad. But she tells him to get along and tells his friends in Adelaide to postpone their flights as the wedding won't happen unless her mother comes back. So, while Lauren dances off through the night with her girl gang from Tiwi Island, her mother's hometown, Ned tries to bond with her father over football and old movies. But as expected, Lauren's dad gets emotional again, stepping into the cupboard and telling Ned how he's stepping into a trap by deciding to get married. At this, Ned makes up his mind to do something for Lauren and her dad. So, when Lauren returns home sleepy, Ned carries her off to her dad's car and drives away on a quest to find her mother. They travel all the way to a hotel in Kakadu, where Ned finds out that her mom supposedly stayed there before she called Lauren. Midway, Lauren even spots her mother's car parked at a motel, and it turns out that her mother actually sold her car for $7,000. Lauren and Ned make their way to the Kakadu hotel, and Ned cleverly asks the receptionist that they're looking for a marriage venue and rooms for guests. He then subtly slips in an inquiry about Lauren's mother, Daphne Ford. And to their absolute surprise, the receptionist takes them to a trashed hotel room where her mother was staying. The receptionist tells them that she has proof that their mother was kicked out of the hotel because she was seen wearing nothing but a hat along with a French helicopter pilot. Perplexed, the young couple looks for the French pilot who is packing his things up in his helicopter. He describes her as being an insane woman with a lot of enthusiasm, and that she has gone to fulfill her dream of hitchhiking to Catherine on a motorbike. On their way there, Lauren tells Ned that they should go back to Darwin and get married without her mom. Thus, the opening scene with Daphne comes to light as Lauren tells him how her mom got married to her dad without her family so she could do the same too. But Bette is against the idea and insists on finding her mom. When Ned goes on to ask for directions, Lauren finds an old CD in her dad's car, which has traditional Tiwi music on it. It is then that she realizes her mom might still be regretting her decision and that she might still miss her family back in Tiwi. The scene then shifts to a breathtaking landscape, where Daphne is seen singing the same Tiwi song and gazing over the horizon. Fast forward to Lauren, who makes a split-second decision to go to Catherine and find her mom. She calls her dad and requests him to plan the wedding, the venue, the celebrations, and everything. She explains to her dad that they're out looking for her mom, and her dad gets all emotional again. Right then, Ned suggests doing something big, and so they call on Miss Hampton to save the day. Miss Hampton reaches Darwin, introducing herself as Lauren's wedding planner to Mr. Ford, and decides to take charge of planning the festivities. The next day, though, Lauren wakes up in her car only to find Ned gone. But when she climbs out, she spots a trail of flower petals leading to a ferry boat. She boards it and makes her way across the river to a mountain range. She sees Ned standing there with a picnic laid out in front of them. As Ned explains how he got the whole camping gear from the car seats, Lauren can't help but adore him and thank him for the wonderful surprise. And back at Mr. Ford's house, Lauren's friends Ronell, Dana, and Kyla are seated on the couch while Ms. Hampton stands beside a whiteboard giving each of them tasks for the wedding. Meanwhile, Lauren and Ned get back to the mum hunt. While on their way, they encounter a group of people out on an excursion trip. Lauren reminisces about how she had gone on such a trip in 8th grade. Jowin Ranger asked her how the Aboriginals spelled saltwater crocodiles, but she didn't speak. A boy from her class pointed out how she didn't know her own language, and she remembered being infuriated back then. But now, she realizes she wasn't mad at the boy but at her ignorance and ponders upon why her mother never taught her the Tiwi language. Lauren debates how she wouldn't dare do such a thing to her children. But Ned suddenly disappears, and Lauren looks for him amongst the trip people, pointing to a woman wearing a hat. Almost immediately, Ned runs to the woman and plucks off her hat, revealing a much younger lady who is not Daphne. Of course, he profusely apologizes, explaining how they have been caught up in a mum hunt. But turns out the hat did belong to Lauren's mum after all. As the couple intercepts the girl wearing the hat, she explains that Daphne was the first ever Aboriginal to travel with them before revealing that she even smoked marijuana with them, and ended up in prison. The couple almost immediately runs off to a police station, where Lauren finds her mum's cousin, Braydon. He goes on to explain how he spotted a rust bucket wagon brimming with smoke while he was on patrol one day, and propped open the wagon. While most on board ran away, Braydon saw his Aunt Daffy smoking in the car. Lauren protested and demanded to know where they were keeping her, but he refused, saying he didn't take her hostage and let her go when she was sober. But right when they were about to lose it, Ned came up with yet another plan, asking the policeman to gather up his entire team on the case as it was about trafficking, and they could get into big trouble. With this, he coerced Braydon into finding her with them. Smiling widely, Braydon confessed that her mum was, in fact, not lost at all. She was actually with his mum, who also happened to be another troublesome woman. Lauren and Ned find Braydon's mum beside a river, and as they try asking her about Daphne's whereabouts, she tells them that they won't find her there. In fact, she poses another question to Lauren about where one would go when they're hurting. And while they guess, Lauren realizes that her mom must have gone back to Tiwi. Meanwhile, back at Mr. Ford's house, the girls have busied themselves with organizing everything. But Trevor is sitting outside, all melancholic. Ronelle walks up to him, divulging her stories, emphasizing the importance of marriage. She says that a marriage doesn't just change the bride and groom, it changes everyone attending it too. She tells him that if they manage to make this wedding as romantic as possible, he'll get Auntie back. As the movie progresses, there are more appealing landscapes throughout the road trip, and Lauren also takes a moment to appreciate the same fact, glancing over the grasslands and wondering how her mom must be feeling. But just as they are about to move on from a gas station, their car starts malfunctioning. To their utmost misfortune, Ned had accidentally fueled it with unleaded petrol when the car was supposed to run on diesel. Thus, they resort to taking the bus to Tiwi. As they wait at the bus stop, Ned reveals that he quit his job, and Lauren just can't accept how foolish his decision was. Ned complains that Lauren should have noticed he had lost his job, but she didn't because she was so wrapped up in her work before, while now she's preoccupied with her family. Lauren, in turn, questions why he wants to get married to someone who he considers so self-absorbed. Ned, though, tries to salvage the situation by saying that it isn't about her acting selfish. He only wants her to direct some of her attention to him every once in a while. But the tension in the air only keeps growing until Lauren decides she must go to Tiwi on her own and face reality before marriage. At this, Ned becomes defensive and claims that she doesn't consider him a part of her family. And as if in a frenzy, Lauren calls off the wedding and boards the bus to Tiwi alone. At this point in the movie, things start getting serious, and most of the characters become vulnerable and start opening up. Mr. Ford confides in Ms. Hampton about how he met his wife and how there were ups and downs in the relationship, but he still can't believe it all happened so quickly. And now that he's alone again, without a wife or kid, he didn't quite know how to process his emotions. He confesses that there were signs of separation. He and Daphne talked to one another but didn't really listen to each other, and eventually, they started getting distant as well. Ms. Hampton also reveals her own story about how she got engaged once, but being a lawyer, she told him to sign a prenuptial agreement, and he sensed that she didn't trust him enough. And with that, it was all over, and she simply indulged herself deep in work to forget all about it. The next scene opens with Trevor reminiscing over old times. His mind travels to a flashback, wherein a young Daphne can be seen attending a singing session with her mother and other Tiwi women. She seems displeased, and so she runs out of the compound, reaching a house in the middle of a clear landscape. A familiar music sound comes from the house, and Daphne goes inside to find a young man cleaning the house. She goes up to him, and he greets her in Tiwi with a smile. The flashback ends with Trevor sighing heavily, looking over the photos. The next morning, Ned comes back to Lauren's house alone and discloses that Lauren has gone to Tiwi, and the wedding is off. Meanwhile, Lauren makes her way to Tiwi. She receives a voice note from Ms. Hampton informing her that the arrangements are made, and she is leaving for Adelaide. She tells Lauren to go spend her honeymoon in peace and return when she's ready for work. Lauren then finds a cart right outside the airport, and the driver, who's dressed all colorful, offers her a ride. She tells him that she's looking for Daphne Ford, and the driver exclaims, pinching her cheek, telling her that Daphne is his sister. With her newfound Uncle Foxy, Lauren goes to meet Daphne at her family home. Along the way, Uncle Foxy shows her around Tiwi and tells her stories about their family. He finally drops her off at the family house, where a group of women are sitting weaving baskets. She waves to them before moving on ahead. She finds her mom sitting near a church, and as she rushes to her, Daphne takes her along to peek inside. There, they see an old couple, which Lauren assumes are her grandparents, and she instantly wants to meet them. While Daphne is still unsure of how to proceed, Lauren eggs her on. As Lauren nears her father, he gently strokes her head and embraces her. Daphne's mother, though, is still hesitant but soon comes forward to hug Lauren. However, she walks away from Daphne, and she sobs while hugging her father. Lauren and her mom stroll beside the river, and Lauren notices how distant her parents have grown. Still, she shows her mother the engagement ring, and she smiles, telling her that she's glad it's Ned. But Lauren tells her how they had planned it all, and then she suddenly called it off because she doesn't want to regret the marriage as her parents did. But denying her claim, Daphne confesses that she never regretted marrying Trevor, and in fact, it was the best thing that ever happened to her. What she regretted was never letting Lauren meet her wider family. She tells her that while she went out looking for some space, she realized that Trevor wasn't the problem. It was her distance from her own family that caused so much strain in their relationship. Back at Darwin, Ned seems to have accepted the hard decision and is standing at the airport, ready to board the next plane to Adelaide, when his phone suddenly rings. Seeing it's Lauren, Ned refuses to pick up the call. However, annoyed with his continuous ringtone, a lady in the queue yells at him to power it off. And it turns out to be Ms. Hampton. Seeing him there, she instantly grabs his phone, wreaking havoc all over the place before picking up the call. With the call on loudspeaker, Lauren tells Ned how much she regrets not bringing him along to Tiwi and how she's learned many Tiwi words, especially the word meaning husband. And as she rambles on, Ned snatches the phone from Ms. Hampton and yells that he still wants to get married. At this, all the passengers cheer him on while the couple finally decides to get married after all. But this time, not at Darwin but at Lauren's real home, Tiwi. Ned then convinces Ms. Hampton to attend the wedding as well since she's also now part of their family. At Tiwi Island, the wedding preparations are in full swing. A ukulele sounds, and Lauren can be seen clad in traditional Tiwi clothes amidst her fellow women heading to the fitting center. There, Uncle Foxy helps Lauren get ready for the wedding while the women practice dances for the event. Daphne then comes over with a box in her hands, disclosing her once-worn tiara that her mother had kept ever since she left them, and Lauren just can't help but feel a bit sentimental as she tightly embraces her mother. Back at Darwin, the girls get ready for the wedding while Ned tends to Lauren's dad, who proceeds to the cupboard yet again. But this time, Ned stops him, taking the music box in his hands and throwing it to the floor. This infuriates Trevor, and he refuses to go with him to the wedding because he feels that everyone will hate him there. Resisting further, Trevor accidentally breaks some glass, injuring his own feet. It is then that Ned tries a final time, telling him how his dad had died 6 years ago and he would have done anything to have him there at his wedding. But since he can't come, and Lauren's dad still can, he absolutely must. At this, Trevor agrees to come along. At the wedding, the guests gather at the church while Ned and Trevor speedboat their way inland. Ned rushes in while Trevor stares at Daphne, who then walks up to him, and they make up. Lauren comes forth wearing a beautiful blue Tiwi dress, much to her parents' surprise, and now that everyone is happy and together, they can finally proceed with the marriage. Lauren walks up the aisle with her parents and a big smile as she approaches Ned. With tears in their eyes, they exchange vows, and the officiant declares them husband and wife. The movie ends with a traditional dance festival where Daphne's mother takes her hand and dances with her to an emotional tune. And with a beautiful epilogue, the movie emphasizes the importance of familial bonding and embracing differences of opinion. It won't be wrong to say that Top End Wedding brings forth many themes. Though it revolves around a simple wedding, it shows how it's not just an occasion, but an entire feeling, an experience, and a lesson to all those attending the ceremony. No matter how the wedding comes around, it takes love, family, and embracing one's roots to make it successful. And so, if you want all these lessons all the while enjoying a light-hearted comedy, then go watch Top End Wedding right now.